To some, he has come to sharpen and shape the US, returning the lost moral standards. To others, he is the worst president ever. With his whirlwind of executive orders, policy shifts, and global recalibrations, Donald Trump's second term as the 47th president of the United States has sent shock through the federal government and beyond. As the first 100 days comes to a close, the million-dollar question is, what is the landscape of America's politics and global relations? Do you think it has been forever altered? With a flurry of 143 executive orders, Trump has set a new precedent, tackling immigration reform, trade wars, and executive authorities with huge determinations. From the southern border to the global stage, his policies have sparked both fervent support and fierce criticisms. As the nation struggles with the implications of these sweeping changes, one thing is obvious. Trump's presidency has entered a new era of unapologetic action, leaving many to wonder what's next in this unpredictable chapter of Americans' history. What could the odds be? We really want to know. Will Trump hold and bold moves stabilize the economy and secure the nation, or will they push the country into further turmoil? One thing we are certain of is that the next 100 days will be just as pivotal in shaping the course of history, just as he wants it to be. I am Oyin Okbala. Let's begin. As Donald Trump marks his 100th day in office for his second term, reactions to his presidency are sharply divided. While some supporters praise his efforts to reshape the federal government and U.S. policies, critics express disappointment and concern over some unfulfilled promises and controversial decisions. In an exclusive interview with ABC, Donald Trump claims that closing the borders has been the most significant thing he's done, which, by the way, we here think is subjective and open to different interpretations and, of course, meanings. Well, according to a fact sheet from Trump's administration, he signed an executive order suspending the physical entry of aliens engaged in an invasion of the United States through the southern borders. These orders directed the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the Department of State to take necessary actions to immediately repel, repatriate, and remove illegal aliens across the southern border. Let's get that clip.
What's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad. They were allowing people to come in from prisons, as you know, and you've heard me say it, but you've heard a lot of people say it. Prisons, mental institutions, gang members, murderers. We had many murders, 11,888, they think. Some murdered more than one person. So you had murderers coming in, you had everybody coming in, and not just South America, from all over the world. They were emptying their prisons into our country. And now it's totally closed down. And you've seen just yesterday, they announced 99.9%. Nobody thought that could happen. And it happened quickly, very quickly. And I think that's very significant. But we're doing other things that are very significant. The results will take a little bit longer because it's one of those, you know, it's complicated. It's many years of trading abuse. We've been abused by other countries for years and years. They laughed at us. They thought we were stupid people. And we're fixing it, and I think that's going to be very, very important. But
I have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. You know?
Well, on the other hand, many Americans feel that Trump has failed to deliver on key promises, including cutting grocery prices, stopping inflation, and addressing the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The pending Medicaid cuts have sparked controversy and worry, with some fearing that vulnerable populations will be disproportionately affected. On the other hand, Trump supporters argue that his policies will have long-term benefit despite short-term turbulence. They praise his efforts to reduce wasteful spending, eliminate excessive regulations, and promote Americans' interests abroad. The reactions to Trump's presidency, we think, reflects the Americans' deep divisions and opinions as well on his policies and decisions, which are highly polarized, with some seeing him as a champion of change and others viewing him as a threat to established norms and values. What then can we say? As Trump's presidency continues to unfold, one thing is clear: the next 1,400 days will be shaped by the complex interplay of competing interests, competing ideologies, and priorities. Whether Trump's policies will ultimately benefit or harm the country, that remains to be seen. Now let's take a dive into the Australian politics. Australian politics is heating up with the federal election just around the corner. Peter Dutton, the opposition Liberal Party leader, is trying to shake off comparisons to Donald Trump, with some critics labeling him as Temu Trump. Now, this is due to the perceived similarities in style and policy approach. This nickname references the Chinese e-commerce site Temu, known for cheap and often low-quality products. So what they are implying is that Dutton's policies might be seen as low value or unappealing when compared to President Donald Trump's. Well, the election set for May 3rd promises to be a closely contested battle between Dutton and incumbent Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Recent polls indicate that Albanese is leading in preferred Prime Minister ratings with 49% support compared to Dutton's 34%. Additionally, Albanese's Labour government is focusing on key issues such as tax cuts, student loan, and improved health care. Well, despite these efforts, Dutton's next approval rating stands at 66, significantly lower than Albanese's 15. The comparison to Trump seems to be eating away at Dutton's lead, with some voters potentially viewing him as out of touch or divisive, which is not very good for his country. Well, it's clear that both leaders face challenges in winning over voters, and the outcome of the election remains uncertain. So since people have been wanting to know if he will speak like a Trump, will he speak like Trump? We want to know. Does he have his charisma? We want to know. Let's find out.
Between, on the one hand, more of the same under Labor, a weaker, less secure and worse off Australia, and on the other hand, the much-needed change under the coalition for a stronger, safer and better Australia. This election isn't just about the next 3 years, as you know. This election outcome will define the decades to come. It is, as we've said before, a sliding doors moment for our country. The past 3 years are a good indication of what our future will look like under a returned Labor government in any form. And since coming to power, the Albanese government has lifted spending by a staggering $425 billion. And rapid and unrestrained government spending has weakened our economy. It's meant inflation and interest rates have stayed higher for longer. Under Labor, Australians have only experienced the worst collapse in living standards in the developed world, but we've also experienced the biggest collapse in living standards in our country's history.
So the question is, does he sound like Trump? Does he have the vigor of Trump? Oh, well, let's leave that aside. Let's head to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the Southern African Development Community, SADC, has commenced the withdrawal of its peacekeeping forces from the eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. The move comes after the forces suffered significant losses, including 18 soldiers killed in the late January during the M23 rebel group's offensive towards Goma. The SADC forces are withdrawing through Rwanda, with the country providing safe passage and escort to the troops and equipment convoys. The forces will travel to Chato in northwestern Tanzania before repatriating to their respective countries, including South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania. The withdrawal marks the end of the SADC's mission in the DRC, which was deployed to support Congolese forces in countering armed groups and stabilizing the region. And so the mission's conclusion raises questions about the future stability of the region and the ability of the DRC government to manage the ongoing war. The M23 rebel group, mainly composed of Tutsis who survived the 1994 Rwandan genocide, resumed armed activities in North Kivu in November 2021, leading to a significant escalation of conflict in the region. The conflict has displaced approximately, according to reports, 1.2 million people in the two provinces, with the UN and humanitarian agencies struggling to access affected communities. The DRC and Rwanda signed an agreement in Washington, D.C. under U.S. mediation to draft a preliminary peace pact aiming to uphold territorial integrity and pave the way for peace. The success of these efforts remains to be seen as the nation continues to grapple with the complex dynamics of conflict and instability. What's happening in Burkina Faso? Because we hear that thousands of Burkinabés rallied in support of transitional President Captain Ibrahim Traore in Ouagadougou, the capital city, in response to comments made by General Michael Langley, head of the U.S. military in Africa. General Langley had accused Traore's junta of exploiting the country's minor resources for personal gain rather than benefiting the people. This show of support for Traore is consistent with recent demonstrations in the nation. And so in a related development, thousands of people rallied in Niger and Burkina Faso just last week in support of their country's withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, which is set to take effect. The departure from ECOWAS alongside Mali has created uncertainty about the nation's bloc and its future. Well, it's likely that the protests in support of Traore and the ECOWAS withdrawal are connected to the growing tensions between West African countries and external partners. And so the situation remains fluid and further developments, of course, expected. And so for background knowledge, the youngest African president is Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, who is currently 36 years old. He came into power in 2022 after leading a military coup that ousted interim President Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. Traore's administration is focused on combating insurgency, improving governance, and strengthening national unity. He's about a few young others who are bringing fresh perspective and innovative governance approaches to shape the continent's future, with some focusing on economic development, anti-corruption measures, and government reforms. The question is, do Africa need this kind of pressure from its own? The answer could be yes, the answer could be no. But all we know is that Africa may just get better right after now. From all of us here on ABC Amba TV, we say happy Workers' Day to everyone who has a genuine means of income. And this is where we draw the curtains on today's Flash News. Do well to join us at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. for Undaunted this evening. Good day.